All right, welcome back to Season 3 of the Selling Point Podcast. My name is Anthony Nix, and I am the founder of Transformative Sales Systems, where we help small and mid-sized businesses build sales leadership, process, coaching, and accountability that they need to grow. Now, how was your summer? Here we are now in the heading into the middle of August. And I think most every school system is finally back, and now we get a moment to breathe. And it seemed like a perfect time to kick off Season 3 of the Selling Point Podcast. Now, today, this episode is going to be a little different if you are listened to the Selling Point Podcast in the past. Most of these episodes this season are going to focus on specific sales problems. We're going to take an issue, we're going to break it down, look at what is really happening, and talk about what salespeople, sales leaders, CEOs, and business owners could do about it. But before we get into those topics, I want to use this episode to explain where we are going in Season 3. Why these conversations, they really matter, and what I hope you'll take away from this season. Because most of the topics may be different, but they are not disconnected. There is one idea running through all of them. Sales performance is rarely improved by finding one clever trick or a special tactic. Sales performance improves when people make better decisions inside a stronger sales system. And that's really the point of this season. If you've listened to the Selling Point Podcast before, you already know that I do not believe most companies have a motivation problem. They may have motivated people. They may have experienced people. They may even have people working extremely hard. What they often do not have is enough clarity around what good selling looks like, how opportunities should move, what managers should inspect, how coaching should happen, and where accountability belongs. When those things are missing, the business gets inconsistent results. A strong salesperson might still produce. Another salesperson may struggle. The pipeline may look full 1 month and just weak the next. Forecasts change late in the cycle and opportunities sit for way too long. Managers spend their time chasing updates. Owners become more involved in individual deals because they do not trust the process. Then everybody starts looking for a quick answer. Now, maybe we need more leads, or we need a different CRM. Maybe we need sales training. Maybe we hired the wrong person. Any of those things could absolutely be true. But if you don't understand the system around the salesperson, you can spend an awful lot of money treating symptoms. So in Season 3, we're going to keep it practical, stay practical. We're going to look at everyday decisions that determine whether a sales organization becomes more capable or simply just stays busy. Now, one of those decisions is how sales people communicate. We have more ways to communicate now than ever before with our customers. Email, text, messages, video meetings, social platform, CRM sequences, automated follow-up, all have a place. But convenience is not the same as effectiveness. There are moments in a sales process when a salesperson should stop typing and just pick up the phone. When the message is sensitive, when tone matters, when an objection is complicated, when the opportunity is beginning to drift, when the customer is frustrated with you, when a decision has stalled and another email is unlikely to change or move anything. Those moments require judgment. And judgment is not just a salesperson issue. CEOs and owners should expect their sales leaders to teach the team how to choose the right communication method for the situation. A company could have excellent technology and still lose business because its people avoid the conversation that needed to happen. We'll talk about that absolutely this season. We're going to talk about trust. Buyers are more informed. They're much more cautious and more capable of avoiding a salesperson until very late in the buying process. They have heard exaggerated claims. They have experienced poor follow-through. They know the salesperson has an interest in getting the deal closed. And that creates a little bit of a trust gap. A salesperson does not close that gap with a better slogan or a more polished presentation. Trust is built through preparation, relevant questions, honest qualification, consistent follow-through, and the willingness to tell a customer when something isn't a fit. Trust is also affected by the system behind the salesperson. If the company rewards revenue at any cost, the customer will eventually feel it. If the sales process encourages premature proposals, the buyer will see a solution before they feel understood. If the forecast pressures the team to turn hope into probability, the business starts making decisions based on fiction. So when we discuss trust, we will not treat it as like a personality trait. We will look at it as the behaviors and the leadership expectations that either strengthen credibility or just quietly destroy it. Another major focus will be preparation and learning. Too many sales meetings happen with almost no real pre-call planning. The salesperson knows the customer's name, has looked at the website, and has a general idea of what they want to discuss, but that's not a plan. A useful pre-call plan should clarify what is known, what is assumed, what needs to be learned, who is involved, what a productive next step would be, and where the opportunity could go wrong. Preparation does not mean scripting every word. It means entering the conversation with purpose. And the learning should continue after the meeting. A deal debrief should not be a casual question in the hallway, how did it go? It should examine what the salesperson expected, what actually happened, what the customer revealed during the conversation, what remains unclear, what commitment was gained, and what needs to happen next. That is how a salesperson improves their judgment. It is also how managers coach around real work instead of just giving general advice. CEOs and owners should expect that discipline from the sales organization. Important sales calls should not disappear into a calendar and then reappear later as a forecast update. The company should be learning from the work while the work is happening. We'll also spend some time on the most overlooked sources of sales growth, the customers you already have. Many companies say existing customers are important, but when you look at the sales process, almost all the structure is built around winning new logos. Account expansion is left to memory, relationships, or just plain luck. The salesperson stays close to one contact, responds to requests, and assumes the customer will call when another need appears. That is account servicing. It is not and account expansion strategy. A real strategy requires the team to understand the customer's business, map relationships, identify adjacent needs, recognize risk, create value beyond the original sale, and intentionally earn access to more and more people inside the account. That does not mean pushing more products at every customer. It means becoming useful enough to see opportunities earlier and credible enough to be included in more important conversations. For many B2B companies, especially those with really long sales cycles, expanding the right existing accounts can be one of the fastest and most profitable paths to growth. But it has to be managed as a strategy, not treated as a pleasant surprise. Another topic this season will be sales recruiting salespeople. Hiring a salesperson is one of the most expensive decisions a company makes. And it is one of those decisions most likely to be influenced by instinct and chemistry. The candidate is selling themselves. A polished interview can feel like evidence, even when it is not. We will look at how to define the sales role before evaluating the candidate, how to build a hiring scorecard, how to use assessments appropriately, and how to structure interviews, how to test claims that an interviewee might make, and how to turn the hiring process into the beginning of the coaching plan. The principle is really very simple. Do not select the person who sells themselves the best. Select the person who provides the strongest evidence that they can succeed in your specific sales role and environment. That same evidence-based thinking applies well beyond recruiting. I mean, it applies to pipeline reviews. It applies to forecasting. It applies to deciding whether an opportunity is even qualified. It applies to diagnosing why a salesperson is struggling. And it applies to deciding where a sales leader should spend coaching time. So throughout this season, we're going to keep coming back to the difference between activity and evidence. A salesperson can be very busy and still have a very weak pipeline. A CRM can contain a large dollar amount and still provide a very poor forecast. A long list of follow-up tasks can create motion without creating any progress. A good conversation can feel positive without producing a meaningful customer commitment. That's why the questions that we ask really, really matter. What changed because of the conversation? What did the customer commit to? Who's involved in the decision? What problem is important enough to solve? What evidence supports the close date? What has the salesperson learned that they did not know before? What should the manager coach? Those questions create clarity, and clarity gives leaders something that they can manage. Season 3 is for salespeople because individual judgment and execution matter. It is for sales managers because coaching, inspection, standards, accountability does not happen by accident. And it is for CEOs and owners because the sales organization should not be a black box that produces a number at the end of the month. Leadership should understand how opportunities are created, how they're qualified, how salespeople are coached, why the forecast should be trusted, where growth is expected to come from, and what risks are being managed. You do not need to become the sales manager In fact, if you've hired a sales leader, you should not be doing that person's job. But you do need to know what good sales leadership looks like and what questions the business should expect the sales organization to answer. There's also another goal for this season. I want to make the expectations more visible, not just theoretical book learning expectations, very practical ones. What should happen before an important customer meeting? What should a manager hear during a pipeline review? How should a team decide when to walk away from a weak opportunity? What should be measured? What belongs in the CRM? What should happen when a salesperson repeatedly misses commitments? How do you know whether the problem is skill, will, role, fit, management, or the sales process itself? Those are all conversations that help a business move from hoping for sales growth to managing it. You'll also see the podcast expand this season. We will continue with focused, topic-driven episodes like this one, the ones that I've described. We will also include conversations with some CEOs and business leaders so we can explore how these issues show up inside of real companies. Those conversations matter because sales does not operate by itself. Growth affects operations, pricing affects margin, forecast quality affects hiring and purchasing, customer selection affects capacity, recruiting affects culture, accountability affects the entire leadership team. A sales decision is often a business decision wearing a sales label. And in season 3, we're going to treat it that way. So my commitment is that every episode should leave you with something useful. A question to ask, a standard to establish, a conversation that you need to have, or a part of the sales system that deserves a closer look. You may not agree with every point that I'm going to make this season, and that's perfectly fine. The goal is not to create agreement just for agreement's sake. The goal is to help you examine how your sales organization actually works and decide whether it is producing the behavior and the results your business needs. As you listen to this season, I would encourage you to keep one real situation in mind. It might be, let's say, a stalled opportunity in your pipeline, or it might be a salesperson who's just not developing at the rate you thought they should. It might be a major customer that has more potential. It might be a forecast that you don't trust. It might be a sales position that you need to fill. Use the episodes to examine that situation. Ask where judgment is weak, where expectations are vague, where the process is missing, or where accountability has been avoided. Then make one improvement. Sales systems are not built in one meeting. They are built when leaders consistently define the standard, inspect the work, coach the person, and follow through. This is the work we'll be talking about in season 3. Better communication, stronger trust, more disciplined preparation, more useful debriefing and coaching, intentional account expansion, evidence-based recruiting, clearer pipeline management and forecasting, and of course, sales leadership that gives the business a more predictable path to growth. If that is the kind of sales organization you're trying to build, you're in the right place. So subscribe to the Selling Point podcast on any of the platforms that you use so you don't miss the upcoming episodes. And if you know a CEO, an owner, a sales leader, or a salesperson that could benefit from the conversations, share this podcast with them. And if your company is growing, but the sales organization lacks leadership, process, coaching, or accountability needed to support that growth, transformative sales systems can help. I appreciate you all, and I want to thank you for joining me at the beginning of Season 3 of the Selling Point Podcast. Again, my name is Anthony Nix. Keep leading, keep improving, and remember, predictable sales growth does not come from one tactic. It comes from better decisions made inside a stronger sales system. I'll see you next time.